Thank you, Chairman Grassley, and I hope the people standing in the back of the room at the Iowa town meetings heard you loud and clear. This is a bipartisan effort that really gets to the heart of why we're here today and why many of us chose to make this our life. To be able to help families protect their kids is the highest priority in my agenda when it comes to legislation. Mr. and Mrs. Woods, thank you for being here. We thank you so much for your testimony, and it breaks my heart to think what you've been through, but you didn't hide in darkness and grief. You spoke up. You've been a leader. You can make a difference. Mr. Chairman, I want to make one general observation that is bipartisan as well. We do pretty well in the committee. We get all the votes in the committee. Everybody's for the legislation in the committee, and then nothing happens. Year after year, we've been, even while I was chairman, we were passing this legislation at the committee level, and nothing happened. Several times I've gone to the floor with a unanimous consent request to try to bring up this legislation, and it's been stopped by one member. That's all it takes in the Senate. One member stands up and objects. This time, let's make sure it's different. If we pass this meaningful legislation, let's make a bipartisan promise to do something about passing it on the floor. I think we ought to consider the possibility of meeting with not only the Republican leader, Senator Thune, but the Democratic leader, Senator Schumer, and tell them we want this to be a priority. If the United States Senate was paid by the hour based on legislation produced, we wouldn't get paychecks because we're not doing very much of that. We're doing nominations day after day and resolutions that mean little or nothing, and nothing substantive. This is the most substantive thing we can do to protect children and grandchildren across America. Let's do it together. Let's do it bipartisan. Let's make it a priority. We have 4.5 weeks left of this period. Let's make sure that we have the leaders knowing the fact that it's a priority for all the members of the committee. So if we have to meet with them personally, maybe that's one way to approach it. But let's get it beyond the committee this time. Let's get it on the floor. Let's get some record votes. And I'll be glad to work with you in that regard, both Democratic and Republican side. I have an unrelated topic I'd like to say a few words about.
Proceed.
I want to raise a matter that goes to the core of this committee's oversight responsibility. It demands our most immediate attention, and that's the mass detention of immigrants by the Trump administration. Armed with unprecedented funding from the so-called Big Beautiful Budget Bill, ICE has dramatically expanded its detention capacity. ICE is holding about 65,000 individuals nationwide, nearly double the number under the previous administration. How does that 65,000 number compare to the Bureau of Prisons, federal prisons? 153,000 for the federal prisons, but ICE has now created 65,000. Before ICE got on this rampage, we still had more people incarcerated in the United States than any country on earth per capita, and this makes it even worse. Despite President Trump's claims over and over again that going after the worst of the worst, 86% of immigrants arrested last year have never been charged or convicted of a violent crime. 86%. The administration is now planning to turbocharge its mass deportation. They're purchasing warehouses across the country, some capable of holding 8,500 people. Blueprints show plans to repurpose structures built for storing and distributing consumer products to confine thousands of human beings at a scale that raises serious concern about crowding, safety, public health, and dignity. The head of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops recently wrote, "The thought of holding thousands of families in massive warehouses should challenge the conscience of every American. Whatever their immigration status, these are human beings created in the image and likeness of God, and this is a moral inflection point for our country. It is also a moral inflection point for this committee. The proof of dangerous condition is in the numbers. In 2025, ICE reported 32 deaths in immigrant detention, the highest number in more than 20 years. This disturbing trend is continuing. We're only 2 months into the new year, and at least 8 people have already died in ICE custody. You don't know that because there's no video cameras recording it in the prisons. These deaths were preventable. Many immigrants died of treatable diseases like heart disease, respiratory infection, and diabetes. 9/11 calls from these facilities highlight a system that is overwhelmed, and internal audits have documented failures to meet the most basic standards of care. This is beyond the pale. We should not be a death sentence for detention on an immigration charge. Earlier this year, Geraldo Lunas Campos died at the Camp East Montana facility in Texas. Witnesses reported he was choked to death by guards. An autopsy by the county medical examiner determined that his death in detention was a homicide. The Trump administration's response? It tried to deport the witnesses to the homicide, forcing a judge to step in and order DHS to preserve evidence. Another man recently died at the same facility in Texas. Instead of transferring him to a local medical examiner, DHS moved his body to a nearby Army base, which is now refusing to report the results of his autopsy. As one federal judge recently noted about ICE detention under the Trump administration, this is not what civil enforcement looks like in a humane system of government. To make matters worse, DHS continues to obstruct independent investigations of these failures. It has repeatedly defied court orders, tried to hide evidence, blocked members of Congress from accessing detention facilities, and ignored congressional oversight requests. Last week, a federal court ruled that the detention facility at Broadview, outside the city of Chicago, which has been a busy place for a long time, had to grant access to religious individuals who were coming in to bless people, provide them with communion and ashes for those who were Catholic on Ash Wednesday. It was the only after the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis and mounting public concern about her rogue agency that Secretary Noem finally agreed, after more than a year, to come before this committee. Given the deaths, violence, and mismanagement occurring right now under her watch, this committee needs clear answers and meaningful accountability. Next Tuesday's hearing will be just the beginning, not the end, of our oversight responsibility. The Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee recently held a hearing with senior ICE, CBP, and USCIS officials. Immigration falls within the Judiciary Committee's jurisdiction. We cannot defer this responsibility to other committees and ignore this historic injustice. Mr. Chairman, I urge you to convene a public oversight hearing with these agencies to address their records. When human beings are dying under federal supervision, oversight is not optional. It is our responsibility. I yield.
Thank you. Now, would you like to go to Mr. Gilmore's nomination?